Welcome back to Hot Cheese. Today we will be going around the NFL talking about a veritable cornucopia of Thanksgiving goodies that the Packers handed their fans this week. We'll do some chef's kiss work. We will do a rookie of the week. I'm your host, Brady Augustine, as always, joined by Aaron Knapp. Aaron, last week you were hungry. Did you get full?
I'm stuffed.
Stuffed? All right. Like a Thanksgiving turkey.
Yes.
All right. Well, there's some stuff going around the NFL this week. Some of it not so good because, the Packers won a game. That's great. But for some other fans of teams, coaches of teams, it wasn't a great day. We didn't even...
It was a great day for me. What are you talking about?
You like the firings? Is that what you're saying?
Canada is gone.
I was thinking about you. I saw it and I was like, well, finally.
I was surprised. I think everybody in my family was surprised. You know that they haven't fired a coach mid-season since the 1940s?
Oh, I can believe it. Yeah, I think the Packers are the same way.
I think
well, they
the
did it with
1940s.
McCarthy, but it's
Oh
been
my
a long time.
God.
Well, I know when we talked about it, you were like, I don't think there's going to be any changes made, which was a
Not until the
disappointment
end of
at
the
time.
season.
Yeah.
What?
All right. Well, but here's my question now. It's not like they're going to be able to bring in a new offense. Like, what is
Right.
your play? Are you still like, let's just ride this season out? Let's see what we can do next year.
Yeah. I
Okay.
mean, the people that they've promoted to take over for Canada seem to know what they're doing. So now it's all on Kenny Pickett to see if he is the guy or not. But Harris, Najee Harris was off his leash, and it was a good thing, and he played really well. So there you go. There's your Steelers talk for the week.
Definitely in the thick of things. Every time, so you got Kenny Pickett over there. We've got Kenny Clark.
Yeah.
Every time I hear the word Kenny, I think of there's a Seinfeld episode with the roaster chicken, Kenny's roaster chickens that some of you will know. And he just says, Kenny. They take it away. They turn it and he loves that chicken. And Kramer is like, Kenny. So every time you say Kenny, I think of that.
Okay. Interesting.
But moving on from chicken, there was some fowl that was missing from the Thanksgiving day.
Tell us.
Yeah. No turducken, no turkey leg for Jordan.
But everybody else got a leg.
Everybody. And here's the other insult meet injury. The Green Bay Packers won a game in which we brought 33.7 million viewers, a record viewership to the early Thanksgiving game.
Yeah.
They can't afford
I heard a rumor.
Oh, no.
Is
it a conspiracy theory?
There was a turducken. I've heard two rumors, okay? And you guys can choose which
Greg
one
Olsen
you think
ate
is.
it.
Well, I heard that Greg Olsen stuck his hand up in it.
Yeah, he's ripping that thing open.
And it contaminated it or did something to it, but it was not edible after what Greg Olsen did to that turducken. That's rumor number one. Rumor number two is that they branded the turducken with the Lions logo ahead of time. Because who would have thought that the Packers would have won? And how do you give Jordan Love a turducken that has a kitty cat on it?
I'm telling you right now. Number one, just cut the leg off.
I know.
Number two, take the skin off where the stupid brand is.
We should just start a really bad rumor that Greg Olsen did something just obscene to that turducken, and it was no longer edible.
Yeah, the way he was digging in, I don't know that I wanted. We'll give him a pass this time. Now, you have, however, going on the line of, conspiracy theories, starting rumors. We like to start rumors here.
I love it.
We have fun with it. Yeah.
I don't start these rumors. I hear these rumors from other people. Okay? I'm just passing on knowledge.
I got a hunch you've made a few of them up yourself.
It's not fan fiction. It's not. Okay? I didn't make this up. Bill Belichick to the Chargers?
Bill Belichick to the Chargers.
Now hear me out.
After Reich is out.
He's gonna, yes. Well, Staley was on the hot seat. He is on the hot seat with the Chargers after his big meltdown that he had after we beat their ass. He's gonna go probably. If the Chargers don't, if they don't improve, if they really have just a horrible ending to their season, then I wouldn't be surprised if they got rid of Brandon Staley. He's a big crybaby. But Bill Belichick, his deal, his extension on his contract this year is only good through 2024. Anytime you Google that, Bill Belichick contract, it comes up with multi-year deal. No, it was for 2023 and 2024 only.
Yeah, which is the way most of these contracts work.
So I think they put that knowledge out there to try to entice a trade, okay? Trade of some kind, or, he's not going to get fired. They're not going to fire Belichick, is what I'm saying. Even though the Patriots suck right now. And Mac Jones is not the guy. But some people are saying he could go to the Commanders, he could go to the Bucks, he could go to the Chargers. I don't think he's going to go to the Commanders, even though they say they've got money. They've got money to spend, so they could, buy him from the Patriots. But I'm sorry, Sam Howell's not the guy either. Like, he's not a good quarterback, okay? The Bucks, why would he want to follow in Brady's footsteps? Like,
no, I don't see that one. That's why, like, Frank Reich out in Carolina makes more sense to me with a young team that has a little bit of chutzpah to move forward. But
we can throw the Panthers in there too. But the Chargers, I mean, come on, Belichick in the sunshine and in the hot California sun. I mean, who wouldn't want to see that?
End up like Jimmy Johnson down in Miami.
Right? They've got Justin Herbert, who really hasn't had much of an organization or a team that he can play. And he's he's an elite quarterback, and he just doesn't have anything to help him out with that. So,
I mean, he's got good wide receiver group, but boy, they just can't bring it together into an offense. And their defense not playing well. Bill Belichick would be a help to that for sure.
Why would he want to go to Carolina? Nobody wants to go to Carolina.
I don't think anyone does either. But I mean, well, I would say the same thing that I said about the Denver situation. If I was Bill Belichick, it would be if this team got good in any way, it's all me. These guys are like, I fixed this. So, and it's not that Belichick doesn't have an ego. We know that much. But but in the NFC North, the Lions now do not any longer hold second place in the NFC because they've been overtaken by the Niners now. Is that correct?
We knocked them down a peg.
We knocked them down a peg and did it in, I think, pretty solid fashion. Lots and lots of good stuff out there. The Bears, I don't know if any of you saw this, but the Bears against the Vikings, which, we've got our eye on the Vikings because we're right up there. They both the Bears and the Vikings have their bye weeks this week. The Vikings were right in there with them. And the Vikings went down. They picked up their 6th loss. Packers now have an opportunity to come in and hit that wild card spot. The Seahawks are a little bit iffy now. And but they did it in strange fashion because the Bears won 12-10 and did not score a single touchdown in that game.
What a terrible Monday Night Football game.
It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. In fact, I remember the announcers just saying, they didn't even know what to say. It was so bad. It was like there wasn't a football game. It's just like somebody finally had to score some points accidentally. So, it was the blind squirrel getting a nut.
Whether Josh Dobbs is playing well or not, he seems to be playing like he has another career.
He's got something else in mind. Yeah,
he's already got his summer camp plans the summer, so he's like kind of checked out. Yeah. He's excited for
tickets are in the mail
for spring and summertime fun in NASA.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Space camp.
I was calling him the pass intercepted astronaut that night. It was really pretty bad. He had 4 picks in that game. It was terrible.
Almost as much of a mouthful as turducken.
It is,
if not more.
Yes, which is why I stumbled over it. Yeah. But I mean, all this to say, this is the NFC North. This is where we thought we had no real even business being. We felt like this was a year that was pretty much gone a month ago. The Lions would run away with it. The Vikings would be okay, potentially get into the playoffs. Lions and the Packers were both kind of foundering. We had the one win against the Bears, but now we've been talking about that week 17 and week 18 matchup, playing the Vikings and then playing the Bears. And it goes from interesting in a good way to interesting in a bad way to interesting in a just interesting way. At this point, anything can happen. The NFC North has just become, I think there's a very good chance, obviously, either Minnesota Vikings or Green Bay Packers now are really vying for a very serious spot in the extended playoffs. So interesting stuff around around the North, and the Packers' big win, of course, not just a confidence booster, but also in the win category for us. So, Rookie of the Week.
Mine is the one that you stole from me last week, which is Tucker
Kraft.
Kraft. We kind of boo-hooed last week because he got his first touchdown last week and then they called it back, which
Yeah.
was such a bummer. But this week, he did it. So good for him. We're happy for him.
Well, yes. And, you have a team that has so many rookies on it. And then to see a few of these guys start to get a little confidence, feel like, no, I belong in this league. Because
Yeah.
you gotta hit that point where you're like, no, I belong. And I think he really has. Now Musgrave is not going to be available. We don't know when he's going to be back.
No.
So Tucker Kraft, I think, is going to play. He's going to have a role to play, especially at Lambeau in December down the stretch. So definitely a good choice there. Chef's kiss.
Mine is Jonathan Owens fumble recovery for a touchdown. When I watched that, okay, first off, we had like 2 fumbles in a row or something like that. Like it was bonkers there in like the either the second quarter, end of the first quarter. I had just gotten to my parents' house and I had to keep myself from cussing because I was so excited. But just I know that they always follow through. You always want to, play each play to the very end, like it was a fumble. But like, I kind of felt like everybody else on the field didn't think it was a fumble.
No.
And he picked that baby up, and by God, he completed that play for a touchdown. And then it was like, yeah, they had to look at it.
The announcers were saying,
they had to review it, and they were like, oh my God, it is a touchdown. So, yeah, I was screaming in my parents' living room over that one.
Yes. Is that the one you texted, what am I watching? Or you're like, am I seeing this or something like that?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it is some of these plays in football, they're like, it's like such a veteran move that he did, but it's also something you should know from the time you're in Pop Warner football. You play to the whistle.
Yeah.
Like, everybody knows that. But it's exactly like you say. You get in the heat of the moment. You saw everybody else let up.
Yeah, everybody let up.
And he
just picked the ball up, right? It was like he didn't have to really like scoop it. He just kind of like walked over, picked it up, and ran with it.
And so I just want to I love that choice because I loved that play. Loved it. I am going to take for my chef's kiss. This was 1st and 15. Jordan Love, I had talked about him sometimes letting his feet carry him into trouble. He has to bounce out of the pocket, does a beautiful job. The pocket collapses from the right. He backs out, but then rolls right, rolls all the way to the right hash, and then throws across his body. No platform, like he just flat-footed, just armed through the thing. They talk about Cardinals' sin of a quarterback being throwing late across the middle. This was late across the middle and then some. He threw all the way to the left hash and completed a pass to Malik Heath that I could, in the air, and I know the coaches were saying the same thing. It's like one of those no, yes kind of plays. I loved it. I loved it so much. And we talked about some of the plays that Jordan has made, and it's like, that looks a little Aaron Rodgers-esque.
Mm-hmm.
This play was Brett Favre-esque. This is what Brett Favre would do and just use his gun to get it there before the defender can. So I don't want to see a whole lot of those plays. I don't think, but seeing this one, absolutely loved.
So he's had some great accuracy in the last couple of games. Like so I was watching. Well, so after the game, I was curious. So I came up with some fun facts for you. Are you ready for this, Brady?
Oh, yes.
We're talking quarterbacks. We're talking elite quarterbacks.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So these are stats from what I could gather. I went to everybody's website, looked at their rosters, looked at their stats. Please don't come for me if I got this wrong, but I'm pretty sure that these stats are right and current, okay? So Love on the year currently has 2,599 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, right? Hurts has 2,697 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions.
So 1 touchdown difference and exactly the same number of interceptions?
Exactly the same number of interceptions, and he's only 100 yards above Love on the season.
That is a fun fact.
Isn't this fun? I have more. Brock Purdy, 2,871 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Some are saying he could be elite. Mahomes runs away a little bit. 2,917 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. He's still up there with interceptions, you guys. Trevor Lawrence, 2,746 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. We're talking elite quarterbacks in the league, you guys. And Love is up there. Somehow we don't have the record to show it for the year, but by God, does he have the stats?
And I put up, and some people gave me crap for it, if you compare Jordan Love to Aaron Rodgers through that period of time, same kind of stuff. It's like he's right there.
Yeah.
So, and we talked to our special guest, and he talked about, you got to see consistency. It's still too early in the process, but dang, it sounds like a kid that had all the talent in the world.
Mm-hmm.
He had a team that believed in him with a good system, and he got to sit behind a great player for a few years. I mean, that's not an advantage that everybody gets, but look at Mahomes. He didn't have to come in and get thrown in the fire. That's the difference. Right. Fields, on the other hand, come in and start right away. It makes it tough. Yep. Well, thank you for that. That was pretty cool. She's digging in. I like that.
Treat.
That's a little treat. Yeah. That's the little, is that the cranberry sauce on the
I love cranberry sauce.
Okay. Just quickly tell me about Thanksgiving.
For me,
is it very traditional?
It's very traditional. Okay. I like to have a little dark meat and white meat.
Okay.
All right. It's a little texture thing for me, a little half and half. And then I have a little stuffing, right? Homemade. And then I have some mashed potatoes. I like to make, if I can, I like to make a little volcano with a gravy.
Put the little well in there.
And a little mashed potato volcano. Then I like to have some yams with marshmallows.
Okay, yeah. So they're like the candied yams, like the real
candied yams. Then I like to have some green beans. They're okay, but I have to have them because.
So not the casserole.
Not the casserole, just like French green beans or something. What am I missing? Cranberry sauce. I like to have the cranberries in it though.
Okay, so you're not the quivering can?
No.
Because, Clayton, we talked to Clayton. He posted on that. He's like, this is the real deal. It's like where you can see the can ridges.
No.
It was hilarious.
It needs to look like cranberry.
It needs to look like it was a cranberry once.
In it. It might be homemade. I don't know. I didn't ask my mom. Then I like to top it off with a Pillsbury crescent roll. Because you need something to scoop them taters, the rest of them off that plate.
Oh, yeah. That's good stuff. Now I'm hungry.
I know.
I shouldn't have asked that question.
I know. My mother makes a fantastic Thanksgiving feast. Oh, and pie. I forgot pie. Pumpkin, pecan, key lime. We threw some key lime in there. I don't know. It was, a little fun thing. So
a color punch and a little non-trad.
I guess sometimes you want to go down to Key West on Thanksgiving break. So
I know a lot of people. Well, thank you. Yeah. Now we're recording this. You guys don't know, but we're recording this right through dinner time.
I know. I'm so hungry too. I wasn't hungry when I got here, but now I'm hungry.
No, I'm hungry. All right. So let's hurry up and talk about the Packers versus the Lions. Now, this one, it seems like forever ago now.
I know.
But it really was, this was a treat. And this is one that I believe could potentially be, again, we've got the Chiefs coming to town, a watershed moment for Jordan Love and that offense under Matt LaFleur's system. Certainly not perfect, but the Packers didn't just go out and beat the Lions. I mean, this was a beat down of the same proportions that they gave us a few. What was your favorite? I mean, we know your favorite play, but you look at this game. Neither one of us expected it.
Right.
What was the best Thanksgiving surprise you think out of this one?
Out of this game?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, you kind of.
I could take that one. I could take that one first.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't expect the turnovers. You were talking about it. It was like they came in droves.
Yeah.
And then you had Rashawn Gary with 3 sacks in this one, 2 forced fumbles. That defense against and we had talked about this the first time we met the Lions. You cannot let Jared Goff get comfortable, stay comfortable. They did not. And he looked bad. And I honestly did not expect that. Now, if we were going to win the game, I would have thought, well, maybe we went off. We had a couple shot plays that went for touchdowns, got a ground game going, ended up, winning 24-21 or something because the defense did enough. But the defense looked really, really good at times.
Jordan Love didn't look like that Jordan Love from
the early
from earlier in the season, Jordan Love looked like this Jordan Love. And
From
the one from the
yeah,
stats that I told you
yeah,
about.
yeah.
I was very surprised by and excited to see some of the long throws that he made, the completions. Some of them were just so accurate. I mean, it's the best word to describe it, you know? Like balls that were so perfectly placed. And I usually watch these games for myself. I was watching with my dad, and I was like, I'm proud of this guy. Like I'm proud because my dad and I talk about football sometimes, and Jordan Love has been a hot topic of conversation this whole season, which is, is he good? And so I was kind of like, today
Well,
he's good.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and you legitimately, at the beginning of the season, we were talking about, are you sold on him? I think your answer was no, and it's a very legitimate answer. I want to see this guy.
Yeah.
When you've got half a season done, do his stats look like this?
Right.
And that's completely aside from wins. We had a bunch of losses in there. Like you said, the season has not gone the way we'd hoped. It looks like it might be turning the corner.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the kind of stuff you want from a quarterback that is, starting his first season. Things aren't going to be perfect. We've had all the injuries. We had to talk about those all year. We've still got Luke Musgrave with some internal organs sliced up.
Can you imagine what kind of team this would be if we didn't have the injuries? That was a thought that crossed my mind on Thursday when I was watching that game. I was like, wow, if we hadn't been so banged up all season.
Mm-hmm. And, and the nice thing about, it's not nice to think about the injuries, but I think it does point also to the fact that a young team, next man up, they had the right attitude. They didn't do it perfectly, but they kept trying to get better, and they just beat a really good team.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we could definitely do with a little bit of health.
Mm-hmm.
And now, again, you got two of the North teams getting their bye weeks, so they're going to get rested up.
Yeah.
But the Packers, I think, are maybe turning a little bit of a corner.
Can I change my answer? 72 hours we had of rest.
Oh,
that is my answer. I can't even believe I forgot that. But to turn around from a Sunday to a Thursday after the Lions had a full week of rest?
Yep.
72 hours, and we went out there and kicked some ass.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on. And the injury report that we had on Monday was like
17, 16, whatever
it was so
ridiculous.
bad.
Yeah.
And to come in with people who, like Malik Heath, who you talked about, guys who hadn't really had a lot of play time. I think Malik Heath had maybe played in 4 or 5 games, with maybe only 2 of those games with any kind of stats at all.
And he caught every targeted pass.
Yeah.
And it mattered.
Maybe Matt LaFleur isn't full of shit and that they actually are having good practices.
I know. See, now it's been hard to believe Matt LaFleur from time to time.
I
but
know.
When these kind of things happen, and he says, these are some of the best practices I've seen. I think he said some of the best practices that I've seen. Like, he didn't even say that this young team has done since it's been together. Like, almost implying that this is some of the best stuff he's seen in a long time. And I will say to that, it's probably because they're running his system the way he wants it, not like Aaron Rodgers was doing it.
Yeah. Speaking of breaking news, Aaron Rodgers has been cleared for functional football.
So
he's been medically cleared.
Otherwise known as flag. He's been cleared. I did not catch this. So you got to give me a little moment.
This was today. Everybody was talking about old Shefty was up there on the Twitter talking about it. But it sounds to me like they just opened the window, right? He's got 21 days, and he may not even take him. He probably won't, because knowing that offensive line with the Jets, he would be absolutely suicidal to go out there and try to play. It would just not be a good idea. But, I mean, I think it's a historical thing that...
It is. It is. I mean, he's not playing. I'll believe it when he plays a game, but I'm like you. It's like, I said from the beginning, who would want to line up behind that line? That's the problem. Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah, so he's got to be, and, their playoff chances would be the only reason he'd want to come back.
But still.
He'd do it if he thought he could carry the team through. I know he would do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he would survive, but I know he would do it. Okay, but functionally,
yeah, he's been medically cleared for functional football.
I'll have to stew on that one for a while because I don't know what functional football is other than
Yeah, I'm missing
Troy
a
and-
word. It's functional football something, but
Oh, okay.
but ultimately he's been
Yeah.
cleared to
I mean,
play.
the word cleared enough.
He's
Yeah,
been
that got my
cleared to
attention.
play. He
Yeah.
just would be insane to go line up behind that O-line of the Jets. Back to Packers talk.
Back to Packers talk, which, by the way, is it time for a special guest?
Yes.
All right. We have another special guest for you. What do you say we give him a holler, Aaron?
Let's do it. Let's get him on the line.
Well, Aaron, we've got yet another special guest on. I couldn't be happier to have Chris from Chris and Dave, or otherwise known as Packers Therapy, probably the podcast name. Chris, so glad to have you on. Thanks for your time. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
All right. Now, I understand you're in central Wisconsin. How far are you from the promised land there, Lambeau Field?
Well, we're about an hour and 45 minutes directly west of Lambeau Field in a little town called Plover, which is right outside of Stevens Point in the geographic center of Wisconsin.
All right. All right. One question I want to jump in right away with is, how did you and Dave get started doing this? Because I know you guys have been doing it for a long time. I know I've been listening to you for years. How did this whole thing get started?
Well, usually this is the one that Dave answers when we do podcasts like this, but because he's on a work thing right now, he's got a day job. He lives in St. Louis, and he's got a fancy highfalutin job. He travels a lot, so it's fallen to me. So you'll get my version of the story.
Hey, let her rip now.
Official version.
Yeah, now you can tell all the secrets.
In 2005, Dave and I worked together at a place in Madison, Wisconsin. We worked for the University of Wisconsin for its foundation, and Dave was the guy who invested all of the money that was raised, and I was the guy that ran the capital campaign for the university. But over time, we got to be friendly, and the Packers were kind of the basis of that friendship initially. Mm-hmm. And we would argue. Now, these were the Mike Sherman days.
Oh yeah.
And I liked the cut of Mike Sherman's jib. Mm-hmm. I liked the way he approached his work. I thought he was a solid guy, and Dave just, didn't have any patience for him. If you recall, about that time, the Packers had a couple of seasons where they started out slow. I think 2004, I think they began like 1-4, but then they rallied and finished, I think, 10-4. They made the postseason, but Dave just, he lost any patience for Mike Sherman. So we would argue about this. We would, sit in one of our two offices. And one day Dave said, we should record this stuff and make it into a podcast. And again, this is 2005. And I had to ask him, well, what's a podcast? I haven't never heard of that. And it's hard to think of it now because, podcasts are every place. There's probably hundreds of thousands of them all over the place, right. Any subject you want. But in those days, there weren't a lot of things going on. And I had worked in broadcasting, how to get the equipment, you got to buy it, you got to figure out how all this stuff works. And I figured he would never do it because it was a technical process and I didn't want to mess with it. Well, he figured it out. And I think he went to Radio Shack, he got a couple of microphones, he actually did it on his laptop, he plugged them in, he downloaded some software and said, okay, now what do we do? And I said, all right, well, because I've been in broadcasting, I'll be kind of the anchor. I know how to start things out and I can kind of lead you through it. And he was a little mic shy at first, but of course, after 430 of these things, he's gotten pretty good at it. But at the time, he was a newbie in this kind of thing. But, we started after the second game of 2005. We didn't have everything worked out by the first game. We were still, getting all the technical parts of it together.
We
so
understand
what we would do then, I know you're kind of working through some things on your end as well. But anyway, we sat down in a conference room after work. Everyone was gone, so it was no problem just sitting in a conference room, and plugged the thing in, and we recorded it. And okay, now what do we do with this raw audio? So we found a service that would host the audio for us, and send out links to. I think Apple had podcasts, and I'm not really sure, but we made the links available. And sure enough, some people began listening to it. There weren't a lot of Packer podcasts in those days. So if you wanted something, especially if you weren't in the U.S., our podcast was one of the few that were out there. I think Aaron Nagler and his chum Corey
Binky, yeah.
They were doing I think they were doing theirs about the same time. Although Aaron will always say that we're the OG of Packer podcasts. Maybe we are. But we started around the same time that they did. Of course, now they've developed a whole, franchise, and they got their own beer and all that stuff. And we're just kind of doing the same thing that we did 19 years ago.
Yeah, but it's great. It's great. Watching football and talking about football and doing a podcast. Not a bad gig.
Yeah.
Well, we got some questions for you. Aaron, you want to go first, or you want? I was going to ask how your Thanksgiving went. I mean, the Packers got a win, and it was a holiday, and it did end up fun. So how did that go for you?
Well, it was a surprise. Maybe I speak for the two of you. I didn't see that coming, and so you sort of watch the game thinking, well, this is just something enjoyable to do on a holiday. And I had my sons with me. My sons they're not kids anymore; they're in their middle 30s. So we were all together at Thanksgiving, and you're sort of watching, but pretty soon you're realizing, hey, they might actually win this game, and it got real interesting at that point. So it was a nice gift. It was a nice Thanksgiving gift, and having everybody together to do that. Even my wife watched. She's not much of a football fan, but it was nice to have everyone together to watch them in an unexpected win, and not just a win, but looking good in winning.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I told my parents that I would be over to their place around 12:30 because I wanted to watch football, and I ended up getting over there probably around a little after 1. And as I'm driving to my parents' house, which is about 15 minutes from my house, I keep getting all these text messages from my friends who are like, who the heck is Tucker Kraft, and like all this stuff. And it's like the one day a year of the year that any of my friends who don't care about football would possibly know what's going on with the Packers. And I was just like, Tucker Kraft's my boy. What did he just do? And he was like, well, he just got a touchdown. And I was like, and I missed it? Like, I can't believe that I waited, because I wasn't expecting us to play very well. I kind of thought that the Lions were going to blow us out. So I was like, I'll just take my time and get over there by, sometime in the second quarter. But oops.
Yeah. I tell you, it was interesting that you had people texting you about this, because I think a lot of casual viewers tuned in. It was a record for the early game on Thanksgiving. I think they said 33 million people.
33.7. Yep.
Yeah, and so it's interesting that they showed up well when they had to, and maybe some people that had stepped off the bandwagon have stepped back on.
Yeah, for sure. With a performance like that, against what was at that time, the number 2 seed in the NFC, you gotta give some credit to a team that went out there, drew a crowd, and then performed. And in particular, one of the guys that I'm sure you're excited about too is Rashawn Gary, with the 3 sacks and the 2 forced fumbles in this one. But I'm kind of curious, because the defense has come under fire. Joe Barry has come under fire. But with the possibility, I think Savage was 100% practice today, participating, and potentially Eric Stokes coming back. What is your outlook on this defense that has sort of crept up in the rankings a little bit? Maybe in Packer Nation, not so much, but I'm just curious where they're at in your mind.
Well, I've been pretty candid on our podcast. I was never a big fan of the Joe Barry hiring, because he had 2 cracks, 2 years at Washington and 2 years at Detroit. Mm-hmm. And, the defenses were bad. And I thought, well, why, hire this guy? I mean, it's one thing if you have, one bad outing, but when you do it twice and you're 4 years as a loser, and I saw nothing early on in his Packer tenure to suggest that he had figured things out. Mm-hmm. And so I remain a defensive skeptic, largely because I had this lingering bias that Joe Barry is not a good coordinator. But the results would suggest, this season anyway, that they're solid. I don't think they're great. I think they're solid. And with the injuries they've had, it's been pretty impressive. Now, in reality, They haven't faced, a murderer's row of quarterbacks. They
Mhm.
will this week, Sunday night. They'll face a for real, terrific quarterback. And they haven't had a lot of that to this point. So we'll see how this goes. But right now, the defense is holding up its part of the deal, and they played well enough, for the Packers to be successful.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about, if you don't care, Jordan Love. And he had a really great game against the Lions last week and made a lot of really great connections with Watson and some of his rookies. And I just wanted to know from your perspective, because I was a little nervous when Aaron Jones went out again, because we had a great first week against the Bears, and then Jones went out, and then we really struggled. And I kind of was wondering if we were going to have another kind of setback after Jones went out again. And then to come out against the Lions and look so good, and to see Jordan look so good, and really be able, his passing looked really good, which has been, his accuracy has been a real problem this season. Do you think that this is maybe like a changing of the tides for him? Do you think that he's kind of turned a corner?
It's too soon to say. I've been listening to some podcasts today, myself, and the whole tone around him has changed dramatically. In fact, I began our post Lions podcast with the statement that I feel like I have whiplash because early on it was like, hey, we got to, after the first 3 games, he was one of the leaders in passer rating in the NFL, and the guy's doing great, and maybe we should sign him to extension right now. And then he had 4 games in a row, games 4 through 7, where he was terrible, and the whole narrative just changed 180. Where, well, they got to keep on losing so they can draft a quarterback. Well, the last 4 weeks it's been back to the other way around. Well, he's showing progress. He's become more accurate. All these other things are coming together now for him. So I really don't know what they have at this point. Started out terrific, it got horrible, and now it's back to the needles pointing up again. So I really think that people need to kind of stay in their shoes here, see how it plays out. This was always going to be a transitional season. I think anybody who was paying attention knew that they were trying to restock the shelves. They got 27 players who were either first or second year, and even though Jordan Love's a 4th-year player, he, in lots of ways, he's a rookie. This is the first time he's really got a chance to play. Yeah. So it isn't really clear to me what they have. I think we have to pay attention, week by week, to see what happens. And this week they're going to be facing a team that likes to blitz a lot. He faced them once before when Rodgers was immunized and he wasn't vaccinated. So he had to play a couple of years ago, and it did not go well. It did not go well at all. And they blitzed the hell out of him. And I guess that's what Kansas City still likes to do. So we'll see. This is in a way kind of a measuring stick, to see how far he's come along. I have a feeling that he's not going to be as good as he has been, but I think he'll be probably solid in this game. I think he's got enough experience now, and the rest of the season is going to tell the tale. And in some ways, the Packers, I think, lucked out because they signed him to, that renegotiated deal, kind of that faux extension, where he's under contract for next year, but he signed it in May. And the way I am understanding it, you can't sign a player, the same player, to an extension twice in the same year. So this will take some of the pressure off in terms of, well, they got to lock him up right now, because I guess by the rules, they can't probably until the next league year, which I believe is going to be in March. So we'll see what happens. I think it's good because Packer fans, won't be, if he somehow plays really well again this week or the next couple of weeks, they won't be pounding this drum. Sign him for 4 years and $160 million. Get him now. Well, hopefully people can relax a little bit. Just wait to see, what we have, and then they can assess it in the off season. I just don't want to see them make the mistake the Giants did or it seems like a mistake at least, when they locked down their quarterback Daniel Jones. Yeah, and I think that may have been a bit premature, and so the Packers are lucky that they'll have more data points to make their decision after the season's over.
Yeah, and it looks like about 2025 is when the whole cap hell situation that we've had to kind of get ourselves into while Aaron Rodgers was admittedly playing at a very high level. You thought you were going to potentially win another Super Bowl. You were pushing your chips to the middle of the table. They get that time to look at that and then have potentially in 2025 money to go whichever way you want, get weapons around him, build the defense, and or if they need to at that time, rebuild. But yeah, a big game against the Chiefs coming up. This is a big one for him. I think there's, we just saw Jordan Love have a fantastic game against a team that had whooped us recently. This is another game I'd be interested to see if the Packers, still have that same sort of we remember kind of mentality, because the Chiefs just came after him. Spagnuolo, is it Spagnuolo, their defensive coordinator, I want to say?
Yes.
And
right.
yeah, and Andy Reid and him, you just saw them last year in the Super Bowl just dismantle the Eagles. So my question is, and I'm going to try and get this out as clearly as I can, because there's a couple ways you go with a young quarterback. They blitzed the living crap out of him because they didn't think he could handle it last time, and they were right. Do you think the strategy needs to change for Spagnuolo and the Chiefs this time around, especially after what happened with the Lions? Because it seemed like the Packers have not had a running game. They're perilously thin at running back. Now you've got basically Luke Musgrave is out. You're pretty thin at tight end, but Jordan Love looks like he may be the kind of guy that if you need to, especially passing across the middle, not necessarily the long ball so much, he can play the quarterback position and beat you if you're not careful.
It will be interesting to see what they do, because you would think, this is a team that you should run against or screen passes, that kind of thing. Well, the Packers have proven they didn't run the ball well, and they're worse probably at screen passes. That's a major problem right there. And so I think they're going to have to rely on the passing game, but probably the shorter rhythm passes. I don't think this is a 7-step drop kind of situation, because if they are, blitzing guys, and you have, your two tackles, are young, heck, the whole offensive line is young, but especially those tackles, your left tackle, they apparently want to, start Walker at left tackle, and this is his first season really getting any meaningful snaps. This is the second season for Zach Tom. If they're going to blitz, it's going to be a real challenge. Now, Tom looks like he's up for the task. I don't think that's quite so sure on the left side. So I think 3-step, 5-step drops are going to have to pass, and you're going to have to get guys open quickly, because I don't think they're going to be able to hold off that rush very well, because they don't screen pass well and they don't run well. I don't see many alternatives for them right now. So this is, I think we all probably expected this was going to be a loss, and they're 6.5-point dogs, I think, at home, which is, that's like being a 10-point underdog.
Yeah, that's bad.
So I think they're going to have to pass the ball, but pass it quickly and on rhythm.
Who's your rookie that shows the most promise?
Now, there is a really good question, because they have, quite a number of guys who I, sat back and said, that's not bad. I'll take that. I was liking Musgrave. The injury, of course, and it sounds terrible. Lacerated kidney, come on. That sounds terrible. But it's hard not to get excited about Reed. Now, I know he had one play, was it against the Raiders, I think? Anyway, it was against the Vikings. He had the ball taken away from him.
Yeah.
On the pass was behind him. He had to come back for it, but it was in his hands.
Yeah.
And he had a guy just take it away from him, like the big brother had taken away from the little brother. It was kind of embarrassing. But later in that game, caught a couple of passes, and it didn't seem to get him down. And he's bounced back really well from that, to the point where, he looks like a real keeper. They can do a lot of different things with him in the offense. I'm quite excited about him not just being a nice complimentary number 3 kind of guy from the slot. I'm thinking that, he might be a more prominent piece of the offense doing, Tyreek Hill kinds of things. Now, I'm not saying going to be that kind of player. I don't think he's quite that explosive, but, he's had a lot of those kind of attributes, Deebo Samuel.
Deebo Samuel's who came to my mind. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's extraordinarily valuable.
Sure.
So I'm really excited about him. I guess of a very good rookie class, I think he's probably the top of the stack.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, he's been kind of your guy for much of the season.
Yeah, my season has been Anders Carlson, and he's really been letting me down, Chris.
Yeah, three games in a row with an extra point miss, and
Yeah, it's interesting. I looked at the first part of the season. In the first 3 games, he was 100%. He had one kick each. He was 100%, hit them all. Fourth game of the season, had 2, was 100%, hit them both. And then it started to the wheels started to come off a little bit. And now he's going to have to, but if he finishes strong, I mean, maybe we can, I'm sure there's going to be competition in the kicking situation this coming year, but.
Yeah, I think that was the only position where they didn't have competition in the off season. And I think they'll correct that this year. And in the Packers' defense, of all the things they had to worry about in the off season, kicker was probably not really high on that list. Sure. And now they have a better sense of the rest of the team, and they can, go out and get somebody to compete with Carlson. I don't think he's bad, but I think they drafted him because his brother was good, and Bisaccia liked him when he coached with the Raiders. And I think that's the wrong reason to draft somebody, is because he's the brother of somebody you like. I mean, now unless that's T.J. Watt. Now that's a guy you draft because you like his brother.
That works. Yeah.
But I'm not sure the Carlsons work the same way. Yeah.
Right.
The Bosa brothers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and we should say for Anders, that kick before the half, that was a 63-yarder. Like that was an absolute monster kick. It didn't look off. It's a 63-yarder. So it does make a difference when you don't quite get there on offense either. And we've seen him he's missed kicks because we've had false starts. We've had stuff like that he should not have had to deal with. So it's a young team, and he's part of that young team, I think, at this point.
I wonder if they shouldn't have gone with the free kick there, because that was right at the end of the half. And, with a free kick, there is no rush, so you can kind of make that almost like a kickoff kind of situation. And I know I was kind of cheering for that because you don't see it very often. It's one of those kind of quirky rules. And I would have loved to see that play out and see how that would have taken shape. But as it was, I mean, long kick, he didn't miss it by much. It was basically on line. So I don't really fault him for that. But the extra points, you got to make those.
Yeah. I'm 100%, by the way, with you on I just wanted to see the free kick. Like, I just wanted to see the free kick. No question about it.
Exactly.
So.
Yep.
All right. So big game against the Chiefs coming up. I think, what'd you say the line is? -6 for the Chiefs?
I think it was 6.5.
Yeah, around there.
So. Yeah.
Do you have a prediction for us on this one? I think I kind of know where we're leaning, but I'll take a stab at this one if you want to go first.
Well, again, I think typically teams get 3 points, just home field advantage. So with the 6.5, you're talking kind of a double-digit spread really between the two teams, and that does actually sound about right for me. I could imagine this being like a 34-21 kind of game, that sort of thing. So if they can be competitive and not have a lot of boneheaded mistakes, the kind of thing that make you question, are they really making progress? If they can avoid that sort of thing, I'll be okay with a 34-21 loss.
Yeah, I'm, as far as the not making the kind of rookie errors that we made earlier in the season, I'm definitely right there with you. We had 5 penalties, I think, in this one. The Lions had 5 penalties on Thanksgiving. We actually kind of kept it down for the first time in like 2 months. And if they can do that, and to me, I'm right there with you in terms of have we seen progress? Because that losing streak was so bad that everything just was falling apart. But if we've seen progress in the offensive line starting to communicate better, having more reps, that's what LaFleur talked about just a couple hours ago, is these guys have time on the field and they've got reps under the belt. If that continues to improve, then I think Jordan Love can complete those short passes and maybe even a little bit more than that. The Chiefs are going to be a little more difficult than the Lions defense, who I wasn't a firm believer in all year. And then defensively, it just seems like our game goes the way the defense goes. And we know we're going to give up some yards in the running game, but if we can continue to get those turnovers, which were so elusive in that losing streak, I think this Packers team has a chance. But yeah, I mean, we're at home. It doesn't seem like Lambeau Field is much of an advantage right now, and that's understandable. I'd probably have I'd be happy with if it was a 28-24 Chiefs victory at Lambeau Field, I'd still be feeling, I think, pretty good about this team moving forward toward the end of the season.
Well, what I'm most concerned about is will we have Taylor Swift v. Simone Biles? That's the real competition.
Oh, Chris, I posted on the Facebook page. I put Simone and I put Taylor next to her, and I said something about I'll take the underdog all day long. We actually banned like what was it? Week 3 of the season. We put a moratorium on even saying her name at some point. It was so bad.
I'm a bit conflicted though, because I don't know if you know this, but every year Spotify and Apple Music put out a year in review kind of thing. And it kind of gives you an idea of how many hours of music you listen to, who your favorite artists were, what your favorite song was. Well, I got mine today, and my favorite artist was Taylor Swift. So
oh my word.
I'm a Swiftie, but not this week. And I'm also conflicted because I boycotted the Chiefs early on in the season, so I don't know if I can watch this game.
I don't know. That's a tough one.
No.
And not because of Taylor Swift, but I kind of want to ask you this is about the refs. We had another kind of bad weekend with the refs in some games, not for us particularly, but just their play calls.
Right.
Are you seeing what everybody else is seeing, which is they just kind of seem to be playing favorites?
I watch all the games with my older son, who's been a Packer fan since I sat him on my lap when he was 2 years old. He'd wake up from his nap and, on Sunday afternoons, and we'd sit in front of the TV and, watch. And one of the things that he was commenting on, and we haven't had this in Green Bay for a long time, but it's usually the teams that are a little, dicey, a little questionable, that don't get the calls. And we've been used to the Packers being one of the good teams. And by and large, with maybe the exception in Seattle in 2012, the Hail Mary, generally speaking, the Packers have got, I think, they've been even to plus when it comes to refereeing calls. Now that they're a team largely of no names and a team of players that are young and probably suspect in the eyes of the officials, I don't think they get the breaks when it comes to some of these calls. And you can see, when they are calling a false start because somebody flexed his knee, they show it in slow motion, it's barely imperceptible. Or when we have John Runyon twice lining up in the neutral zone, and he lines up the same way he has ever since he's been in the league. I think he's in his 4th year now.
Yeah.
And they've never called it before. But the difference is there's no more Aaron Rodgers. You don't have the recognizable players. This is not a Super Bowl contending team. And so they don't get any grace. And I really do think that's played out this season. So, Aaron, I think what you're seeing is what I've seen too, is that the Packers don't get the benefit of the doubt now the way they might have in earlier years.
Yeah.
Well, I think grace is a good word to close this interview on, because maybe with a little grace, the Packers could beat the Chiefs. I don't know. I'm not necessarily seeing it, but I know, Chris, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm sure you'll be rooting for it as well.
Always. Dave and I on our podcast, we've had for years and years. This is our 19th season, so we've gone around and around like an old married couple on some of these things. But I've always been about week to week. I want them. I don't care what their record is. I want them to win every week. And Dave is like, well, it might be advantageous if they lose because better draft position, or maybe they fire a problematic coach or whatever it might be. Dave has always been more on the side of if you're not first, you're last kind of deal, where I think there are gradations of success. And, you start out with your first goal, a winning season, make the playoffs, you win the division, you get a home game, you win a game in the playoff. All these different kind of steps that make for a successful season. So for me, they may be 5-6. I don't really care about the playoffs. I know they're in the 8th position right now, and possible, that they could make it. They've got a soft schedule down the stretch. The New York Times calculator now has them at a 50-50 shot of making the playoffs. That would be great. But for me, it's week to week. You got the Chiefs this week, win that game. That's, I think, what is important. And then when that one's done, go out and play the next one, win the next one week to week, and just kind of keep that in mind. And then at the end of the season, everything will work out great. That's kind of my perspective on it.
Well, that sounds a lot like the perspective of the guy who got the head coaching job for the Packers, too. So,
I was just about to say
well
that.
done. Yeah. Well, Chris, before we go, why don't you let everybody know where we can find you out on the interwebs? And if you want to give Dave a shout out or a derogatory comment, go ahead. Go for it.
Well, Packers Therapy is hosted right now by the PackersTalk.com is where a number of Packer podcasts are hosted. And I think it's actually the 4th place we've been hosted over the years, but we've been with those folks now. I guess we're sort of Cheesehead TV adjacent in that Jersey Al, who is well known to Packer fans, Jersey Al and CD and Jelly are the two guys that run Packers Talk. I actually refer to it as Packers Stock, if you look at it that way, because it is one long group of words. So you can misread that as Packers Stock. Yeah. I don't know, 6 or 7 years, something like that. And then it gets picked up by the different distributors, Apple Podcasts and different places. But you just search for Packers Therapy. You'll find it out there because we have a long trail on the internet. So you'll be able to find us that way. And I will warn people in advance, Dave and I are fans. We are not analysts. You will not get Peter Bukowski breaking it down the way he does, or Andy Herman, with, grading the all 22 and all that kind of stuff. And there's plenty of that stuff that's out there, and it's good. I listen to a lot of it, and then of course there's the kind of the official Milwaukee Journal Sentinel pod. Those are all great, and people should listen to them. But what we do is, more like two fans, talking about the team. And we like to think we're fairly well informed, but, we're not experts on this stuff. We have different viewpoints about the Packers, and we trade those viewpoints and try to have some fun along the way that we do it. We have a betting lines that Dave puts out there every week. I set the lines. He surprises me with 7 proposition bets. And then our listeners, we'll play along with the betting lines. So we do that every week for fun. In fact, we're going to record a podcast later tonight when Dave gets to his destination, and we'll do the betting lines this week. We also throw in a segment at the end on pop culture. So it's not just strictly hardcore football. A typical podcast for us is, hour and a half, and we'll spend an hour talking about the Packers and the other half hour just kind of, goofing around with the fictitious betting lines and also pop culture stuff. So if you're looking for that kind of podcast, two guys talking about the Packers, it's a good thing to mix into your repertoire of Packer stuff. But if you're somebody that really likes, the hardcore stuff and all the breakdowns and all the expert analysis, Packers Therapy is probably not for you.
Well, I think Dave might agree. You need to diversify your portfolio anyway. I mean, if you're listening to the hardcore stuff, you need to add in a little bit of Chris and Dave. And I know I have appreciated it certainly through the years, and the way that you do it and the way you described it in terms of the kind of banter back and forth is really a lot of fun. Tell Dave hi from Aaron and myself a little later on, if you would. And we just want to let you know, Chris, we appreciate your time so much for being with us.
I'm happy to do it. And whenever we do record that Betting Lines podcast this week, we will be sure to mention you and Aaron and your podcast. And thank you so much for having me on.
You are very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, Chris.
Bye-bye.
Well, after a Thanksgiving treat, things don't get any easier, at least in the short term for the Green Bay Packers. We got a Sunday night game. I don't know that we have a read on Jordan Love as a nighttime player just yet. Packers versus Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, I'll get his name right one of these times, coming to Lambeau Field. This is a home game, a night game, and I feel like it's NFC AFC matchup. I got a feeling this one's going to be electric. What do you think? I mean, I think the atmosphere is going to be incredible.
I think you're going to have to tell me about it.
Well, you're going to have end of November at Lambeau Field. We could be looking at, I mean, I'd love to think, I think it's been unseasonably warm, but I think that they got some snow recently.
Ooh.
I would love to see, this is the perfect time of year, because you get into like the end of December, January, and you get those just frozen tundra games where just everything hurts. But this game could be one of those like snow globe games that at Lambeau Field are just absolute magic. You've got Jordan Love coming on, young. You got Patrick Mahomes, who's done it, been there a bunch of times, and is just really, really good.
Yeah.
The offense seems to be missing something now. Without Tyreek Hill, they do seem to be missing a little bit. Their defense is fantastic. If the Packers defense continues to come on, can give Patrick Mahomes some problems, and Jordan Love continues to perform, I think this could be one heck of a game. I just think it could be fun in all kinds of ways.
Yes. So the Chiefs have a wide receiver problem. That's a fact. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. He just makes stuff happen. Travis Kelce could retire at the end of the season because of injuries. I think he's just hurting a lot. This is what I've been hearing. Now, you take him into the frozen tundra, maybe a little arthritis acts up. Maybe his hands are hurting a little bit. I mean, he's been having some trouble with his hands here lately. Tired hands.
Tired hands.
Now,
it's not going to get better for him.
I looked at Taylor Swift's schedule. I know we weren't supposed to talk about it. I know we weren't supposed to say her name, but don't walk. She does not have any more dates to tour until February. So the likelihood that she will be at this game is pretty high. I know. And we know that when she is in attendance for games, Travis Kelce plays very well. So we can only hope that she flies on up there to Lambeau early, wears him out, and maybe he's going to be tired. Listen, the boy has a discipline problem, all right? He flew to Brazil to see her show, to see her perform during their bye week when he should have been in the training room.
Yeah.
Then the next week, he played and he sucked. He was dropping balls like crazy. I can only hope that she could come to Lambeau, come to Green Bay, and it could be a negative for Travis Kelce and a positive for us.
As her name has been banned from our pod, her body should be banned from Lambeau Field. I don't want... It's such a great football stadium to take away with some singer that nobody... I mean, we've got an Olympic gymnast in the stand. Put the camera on her. None of this. But yeah, as long as Travis Kelce plays bad, I don't care if she...
We'll see.
I don't know.
We'll see.
It hasn't. So he's been playing really well every time she's there, right?
Yes.
And in his bad games,
lights out whenever she's there. He doesn't play very well when she's not. Maybe he's just a real simp for her and is just heartbroken when she's not around. So he just doesn't want to compete. I don't know.
No one out there wants to know where my mind goes. All right. So Packers Chiefs. Yeah. I mean, we've already done our predictions on this, talked about that a little bit. I don't have huge expectations for the game other than, like I said, the setting is perfect. You know, the Chiefs are an outdoor team. They can handle this. Patrick Mahomes is fantastic. Jordan Love, one of the young potential up-and-comers in the league that's really making a statement for himself. I just want this to be a damn good football game. That's all I care. I don't even care if we lose this game. I just want it to be have the defenses really show up. Both of these quarterbacks play. We know we're still in the injury situation. We're thin at tight end. We're thin at running back. So it's going to definitely be a challenge to win it, but I just want to see this one beat.
The Chiefs will put points on the board, but we just have to match those. We just have to respond.
That's what the Packers lately have been showing, is that they
Mhm.
can respond. And, you can score in the first quarter, for crying out loud, in the first half of.
Yeah.
So hopefully they will do that. We will talk about that next week. We've got another special guest coming that you're going to love. Will remain nameless
Mhm.
until then. But hopefully the Packers can get a big one against the Chiefs. Before we go, though, we've got another secret word we have to do because, and you'll get why we chose that one in just a second. But today's secret word is therapy. Therapy. So you keep track of all those secret words. We will compile them at the end of the season. We're going to do a big giveaway on the pod. Give away a watch, some Packer Pro Shop cards, t-shirts, and more. And we do have a logo coming. We've got some t-shirts, some other things in the works for Hot Cheese as well. I do want to go over before we do close out. It's very interesting to me. And you may have seen this recently, but if you go over the final schedules for, you guys know what the Packers' final schedule is. We've got the Chiefs, and it gets a little bit easier. You got the Week 17 and 18 matchup against NFC North opponents. But for our money, you got the Lions now that we're keeping an eye on and really potentially can kind of run away with the North. They've got their bye week, but then they've got the Saints, they've got the Bears, they've got the Broncos, and they've got the Vikings. They've got the Cowboys in there on the 30th, and they've got the Vikings again. So they play the Vikings 2 times, and the Vikings play them 2 times. It's going to be really interesting because, again, Lions are a team we beat.
Mm-hmm.
So a tie doesn't hurt us at that point. It'd be 1-1. Just as soon have them win the North. It's the Vikings we've got our sights set on, and they have to play the Lions twice. Be very interesting to see how that goes for their schedule. Obviously, it's not the Lions that have their bye week. It's the Vikings and the Bears. So they play the Raiders. They play the Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's no Joe Burrow Bengals. So that's an opportunity for them. They play the Lions. Packers, obviously, Week 17, and then back to the Lions again for the finale of the season. So not a real easy road to hoe for them. Again, I think the 2 Lions games are going to be the real challenge for them. The Lions are going to want to take the North, and I think they're going to have something to say about that. But the Bears now, depending on I don't even know what Bears fans' approach to this is now, but
I can give you a little insight on.
And then I think I know if I was going to say the secret word for their podcast would be tank. But,
No.
Oh, what are they trying?
They're out of tank talk. Not everybody, but some. Sometimes you have to win a little bit to stop being losers.
That's what the Lions did this year.
That's a fact. Sometimes you have to win a few games to stop being losers. And I don't know that they want to tank.
Wow, I'm really surprised.
I don't know that they want to tank. I think
they want to burn the program down is what I would guess, because this is not the Bears fans' fault. Luke Getsy goes out there, and you didn't see the game. He basically decided our strategy from the preseason when we scored touchdowns throwing screen passes, let's do that for an entire game against the Minnesota Vikings. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
It was horrible. Bad coaching. Their offense, and Luke Getsy is a guy from the Packers.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a guy I would normally want to succeed, but
they have the Panthers pick, and I think that's pretty secure because the Panthers suck. The Patriots also suck, and the Patriots are tanking the right way, So I don't know. We might see the Bears, not even in the bottom 2. We may not even see them in the bottom 2.
Goodness.
I'm
right.
calling Panthers, Patriots bottom 2.
Okay, yeah. Well, okay, so the Bears have the Lions. They got to play the Browns. They're not. It's the Browns.
No.
Cardinals.
Pause for a second. DTR is in concussion protocol, and we might see Joe Flacco this week.
Oh my word! Already, we just talked about it last week. It's so exciting.
Okay, continue.
This is called let's try glass half full when all these quarterbacks are going down. But they got the Cardinals. They play the Falcons, who, again, I'd rather see the Falcons go ahead and win out because the Packers have the tiebreaker.
The Falcons
Saints
will beat
were
the
there.
Bears, yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, Week 18, back to Lambeau Field for what is January 7th at Lambeau Field?
They could beat the Cardinals.
Oh, yeah, they could beat the Cardinals for sure.
That might be the only game
they could beat the Cardinals, but I wouldn't probably have them pick them to win in any of the other games. But yeah. Yeah. Finale at Lambeau, January 7th. You ever been? What is the
We
coldest?
should go.
Oh, heck. Count me in. We were going to try to go. We were going to try to go to at Soldier Field.
Yeah, and you told me it was too dangerous.
Well, here's what they did to us. They put the game at Soldier Field, which I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
They put that one the first when the weather's nice.
Yeah.
They took the one that I can take you to. We can show you around the place. We can have a good time. January 7th.
You told me I
we
might
do
die
it.
at that game. So I might die in Chicago or I might die in Lambeau in January.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Hmm.
And while everybody can find us on every podcasting platform out there, I don't know that we're going to find you like frozen to a pole. Did you do, like, if I asked you to lick a pole when it's free?
No.
Oh, you know not to do that?
I'm not an idiot.
Okay. What's the coldest you've ever had to stand out for a period of time?
4 degrees, maybe?
Degrees? That's mildly chilly.
It's chilly.
Mildly chilly.
It can get cold here. It hasn't
was here?
recently. Yeah, it was
Oh,
here.
yeah, 4 is
It
freezing
can.
for here.
Listen, down here in the South, if it's too cold, if it's in the teens, they'll cancel school because they don't want the kids to have to wait at the bus stop for however long. I guess parents are just dropping their kids off at the bus stop for an hour. I don't know.
Don't even get me started. Yeah. I brought my first computer home in minus 50 degrees. So you're all bundled up and you carry that box from UPS to your car and your fingers are already it gets cold. But yeah, I mean, 4 degrees is not, I mean, it'll actually freeze the pipes around here.
It will.
It's colder than I thought. I thought you had to be somewhere else, like up in Pittsburgh.
I would rather be in the
Yeah. You're a warm weather girl.
mm-hmm.
All right. Well, guys, you can find us on all your podcasting platforms. As I mentioned, we are Hot Cheese. We're going to be sticking around. We will be back next week, another special guest. In the meantime, hopefully the Packers can pull one off Sunday night against the Chiefs. We'll look forward to seeing you next time on Hot Cheese. Go Pack.
Go Pack.